new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman. Joining me today, a repeat guest, a good friend of mine. He is with McGovern Marketing, a multi-line rep here in the promotional industry. Kyle McGovern, thanks so much for joining me, bud.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Always a
Well,
pleasure.
yeah, everybody was demanding that you come back, so I
Oh,
appreciate you being willing.
I got a big following, is what you're saying.
Yeah, ginormous. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, cool.
Uh,
So the last time we talk about you were here before. So the last time we were here, we were in the middle of the shutdown, right? And
right.
so, what were some of the things that you learned during this slowdown of business, and how did you keep business moving?
So, I mean, obviously, Zoom meetings, we all know about that. I learned to use those a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But just different ways on top of that of getting in front of the customer. I've done several different videos. I mean, just showing like the Beacon products in a cooking video was a whole lot of fun. And as well as just how important our relationships really are. A lot of the times I would just call people on the phone and I'm like, no work related, just want to see how you're doing
Yeah.
and how far that goes of just showing that you really do care.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people nowadays take for granted how important a phone call is, or actually writing a letter and like taking the time to not just email.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, that went a really long way for me. And I also learned with everything how great my suppliers are.
Mm.
I'm very fortunate. I mean, I've always loved my suppliers, but through all of this, they really supported us a whole lot. I
Okay.
mean, we're still doing free samples and free specs. And I was like, I know you all took a big pay cut this year and you're still helping me out.
Yeah.
So that went a long way. And it's just how much I love being a multi line rep, where a lot of companies had their direct reps staying home. I still got to go out and see people in person. I mean, that was awesome for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think, what I'm hearing from you is it's like you had to address the new school stuff, Zoom meetings, things like that. But it's like the old school stuff is sometimes the things that stood out the most,
Yeah.
just showing that you
Oh, absolutely.
care. There's an amazing amount of
A
power
lot
in
of people that I talked to that were like, I can't believe you just called just to say hi. I was like, yeah, just want to say hi, see how you're doing. Like obviously, if you need anything, I'm here for you, but just want to make sure you're doing all right.
that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Like that
That's
goes a
awesome.
long way.
It does. So, then spinning it forward, you've been a part of a group leading the industry in in-person events. I mean, that's just facts. So, both on the OPPA board, and then also you and a group of other multi-line reps are doing shows right now. So,
Right.
what have been the lessons and takeaways from putting these in-person events together during this time?
Again, just how important in-person events really are.
Mm.
I've heard many times like, oh, this Zoom meetings, this is the way of the future. It's how things are going to be. Which I mean, really getting to see that person in person helps the relationship, like not only on like a business level, but also a personal level. To be able to hang out with them. I mean, a lot of the people, even for our meetings, are like we can't have you in the office, but if you want to go, we'll go to a restaurant and we'll talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, and just having that interaction that way. And I mean, and obviously, like I sell apparel, I have food items. Like to be like, hey, this is delicious. Trust me. You were like, oh yeah, that's nice. I'm like, see, I'm eating them. That's good. Really doesn't work all that well.
Yeah.
So and just how appreciative our distributors were. There were many that told me they're like, you know what, the fact that you're willing to still come out here, fight for our business, they're like we're gonna support you like we always have, but even more so.
Yeah.
Like you're our first go-to because you are really fighting. And I think a lot of people, and not everybody, some people just they worked really hard and things still didn't happen. But I know a lot of people just kind of shut down and were like, we're going to wait this out and not do anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of what I learned. And again, I love being in person,
Yeah.
and I don't think, and it just proved to me how much I appreciate that. I never thought I would miss Vegas so much, like because it's just like mentally, emotionally, everything draining.
Yeah.
And this year I was like on the PPI virtuals, and I was like, I was happy they did something,
Yeah.
but just sitting there, I was like, wow, this is not nearly as fun. Like
Sure.
so,
Yeah, no, it really is interesting. I think what my takeaway on it, and I think you and I have talked about this separately, but I think these Zoom calls are here to stay
oh yeah,
in
absolutely,
certain places, right?
right,
Like when we can, hey man, let's hop on a quick call. I like these much better than just a phone call
right,
because I can see your face. Are you
yeah,
getting the joke?
absolutely.
All that sort of thing, but they won't replace in person, at least not
Right.
for me.
I mean, if I get a new product, I'm still gonna do the videos. I'm still gonna like, hey everybody, here's this, and throw it out there. But I'm like, you know what? I'd rather see you in person and
Yeah,
really, like, again, to your point, just joke around with people.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
more fun.
speaking of OPA, and being one of the groups that led in-person events, you just finished your role as OPA president. So what inspired you to serve this way? And I mean, how was the experience? I won't tell LaDonna if you didn't like
Oh, right, right.
it.
She'll kill me. So, shh, no. Honestly, I'm a firm believer that education is never a bad thing. So the more you can learn about something, and I'm always trying to better myself. And honestly, my goal in anything I do is to be the best. And I'm like, you know what? If I can network better through this, if I can learn about our industry better, I can do my job better.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's been just invaluable. I mean, like you and me, we talked, obviously, you're a customer of mine, but it wasn't until we were on the OPPA board together that we really started hanging out a whole lot. Like,
Yeah,
same with several of the other distributors and some of the other suppliers that are on the board.
yeah,
And obviously, LaDonna, I'm like, I absolutely love her to death.
yeah.
And I mean, with it, I told her, I'm like, even when I'm off the board, I will do the golf outing. I'll be the chair of that from now forever. Like, it's fun. I'm like, I'll help you guys out. And if I do a good job at these events, like being on the board, it benefits my business.
Of
Like,
course.
it's a win-win. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
And again, it's fun.
Yeah, and again, just as obviously you and I have developed a friendship and a stronger one through this service, and I will say you did a great job as president of the board.
Well, thank you. I got a lot more gray hairs because of it. But
You and me both.
last year was a little stressful. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you that she's like, I think I talked to you more than any president ever. I was like, yeah, well, things change every single day. So
every day, every day. Yeah, that's cool, man.
fun.
Well, thank
But
you for your service there, and
oh, absolutely. And again, I tell everybody this. I was like, get involved, even if you're not on the board. Volunteer. It's fun. A great group of people.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, you've answered my 3 questions, so thank you for that too. I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have one for me?
so again, with the pandemic and everything going on, I know as a distributor, a lot of your customers had to close down as well.
Mhm.
And I know for me, I always love to do free like spec samples. How have you been able to take advantage of that with your customers shutting down?
Yeah. So for those listening, not in the industry, the term spec sample is where you can actually do a mock-up of sort of one piece of something. Virtuals and specs were really something I think that suppliers really stepped up. Again, trying to be creative. And how did I do it? I think the honest answer is inconsistently. Like I think that there would be times where I'd be like, get all gung ho about doing it. And I'd reach out to some of my best supplier partners. We do it. And then as is the case, as those come in and you start following up with it, then that proactivity would fall back down.
Right.
And then so I would say right now I'm in a window where it's super high. This is a product that you guys rep. And so I've got those right in front of me. Those are actually sort of a self promo we're doing. But I think right now I'm being super proactive. I'm right in front of
Right.
it. But I think the challenge, I think for anybody in any business is to keep that level of proactivity going when you're busy too.
Right.
And so that the honest answer is inconsistently.
Right. Well, something I've been telling a lot of distributors, I'm like, obviously your customers took a hit as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, send them a blanket to say, hey, I'm just thinking of you. And 9 times out of 10, that'll lead to an order when business comes back. Or you'll be the first person they call. I mean, I've had several people do that with me with Terrytown as well as Oregadio. Or if they do get a nice order, they're like, hey, I want to say thank you. And they'll send them a blanket.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, nobody else does that. That's really nice. So,
Again, it's funny. It goes back to the old school thing. Really
right.
genuinely showing sincere appreciation still stands out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much for taking the time on a busy day.
Always a pleasure.
So thanks, man.
I appreciate your having me on again, and looking forward to seeing you in person, hopefully sooner than later.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.